An invocation, please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord, let us pray. Lord, protect our citizens, public safety first responders, law enforcement, and firefighters from COVID-19. Bring our city meetings back to normal in order to allow those who wish to attend our meetings to return. Grant the city council and staff and guide the city council and staff and give them wisdom as we conduct today's business meeting. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Lyons?
Here.
Councilmember Scaldi?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Plord?
Present.
Mayor Neal?
Here.
Thank you.
We have a quorum. Be noted that the mayor is currently on our telephone. Closed session report.
Nothing to report.
Agenda approval, addition or deletions. No
None.
change? All right. Public comment. Public comment. Will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes each, and it is requested that no comment be made during this period on items on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the council, any handouts for council will be provided to the city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. Has there been any public comment via email or phone? We have no public comment and no one in attendance wishes to speak, so I am closing public comment. Ceremony and presentation, section 1, we have no ceremonies or presentations. Department and city manager report, section 2.1, department and city manager reports.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We'll start out with Chief Kendall tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Just if you remember at the last council meeting, I provided you guys with an update in regards to Project Hope and one of our hotels participating in that program. Over the last 2 weeks, and in working in partnership with that hotel, we were able to get them removed from the program. They have altered their reservation policies to include checking IDs and not booking rooms without a credit card. And that has what appears to have eliminated the problem. We haven't, over the last week, we haven't had any calls for service over there. We haven't made any arrests over there, and their occupancy rate is a lot less than what it was before. So we'll continue to monitor that, but I believe it's going to be a handled issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. So from my aspect, on the COVID relief funds, city started accepting the applications. Just to update everybody in town, we have about 16 of the applications approved so far. So tomorrow afternoon, emails will go out to all the businesses that were approved. If disqualification emails will go out as well, with the reason why the application is being deemed, disqualified. And then we have some incomplete applications that will tell them what they're missing and give them the opportunity to bring it back to us. So they'll lose their place in line where they were, but they'll fall back in. We've currently, I think, have expended about 70,000 of the 150. So the people that are missing a few items should not be an issue getting them the funding they need. So letters will be going out hopefully tomorrow afternoon, or emails will be going out tomorrow afternoon. and we're coordinating with the county on their practice too to see who they've awarded to Lemoore already. So once we finish that coordination, and then those that are awarded will be asked to come down and sign a contract. And basically what the contract will be is that they're receiving this COVID money, that it's going to be used for the intended purpose. They will have to keep like a log of what they use the money for. And when and if the city does receive an audit, they'll have to provide backup to their submission at that time. So that's the legality of the audit portion of it. But happy to say it's been going pretty good so far on that. And then additionally, we've instructed IT to go ahead and get the software and stuff set up so we can start WebExing these meetings. It appears we may have a few more meetings without the public, so this way they'll be able to phone in as if they were here, kind of following the model that the County Board of Supervisors and other cities are using. So hopefully that change will be implemented for the next meeting if we're not allowed to open back up. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes section 2. Consent calendar, section 3. Items considered routine in nature are placed on the consent calendar. They will all be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item unless the city council or member of the public request individual consideration. 3-1, approval minutes, regular meeting, August 18, 2020. 3-2, approval resolution 2020-30, declaring 341 Heinlein, 311 East Street a public nuisance and setting a public hearing. 3-3, approval resolution 2020-31, biannual review of conflict of interest code. 3-4, approval notice of completion, CIP 5010, Lemoore Summer 2019 street project. 3-5, approval notice of completion, track number 797, Laredo Phase 2. And 3-6, approval second reading ordinance 2020-08, amending section 4-8-4C12 of Lemoore Municipal Code relating to the distance within a school, daycare center, or youth center that is licensed, that a licensed commercial cannabis operation may not be located. Are there any members of the council that wish to have an item pulled for separate consideration?
Negative.
No.
Did you get any request, city clerk? Mr. Mayor, do you have any item that you'd like to have pulled? No? Okay. Okay, so if anybody would like to submit a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as read.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, motion from Councilmember Scaldi, second from Councilmember Lyons. Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Hearing none. Councilmember Lyons, or
Aye.
Councilmember Scaldi?
Aye.
Councilmember Lyons?
Aye.
Mayor Neal?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Consent calendar is approved. Public hearing, section 4. Report, discussion, and/or council action will be taken. 4-1, public hearing, consideration and approval of project development agreement and cannabis regulatory permit between the City of Lemoore and Farm Lemoore LLC for cannabis cultivation. Nathan Olson.
Yeah, so good evening, Mayor and council members. This is an item brought before you. Several years ago, we entered an agreement with KCAL LP to develop 83.5 acres that borders north of Jackson Avenue and just east of the Highway 41. Originally, when that was going through, the city did not have a cannabis ordinance in place currently, and we had engineers' estimates of about $6 million to put in the infrastructure to provide the public benefit of bringing jobs and some light industrial to Lemoore. After several years in engineering, we got the round of bids back, and to complete that project, the city would have been on the hook for about $10.5 million worth of infrastructure, which frankly, we were not expecting and not ready to undertake that type of a price. The current agreement did have in there with KKLLP that the city could be held for up to $4 million in damages to them if we failed to put in our infrastructure. So we went to the drawing board. We kind of unwound that project, working with Farm Lemoore LLC and KCAL LLC, and the agreement has been reached pending final approvals from council. And this is just another one of the things that we have to do as part of that agreement is approve a regulatory permit. Is basically Farm Lemoore LLC is going to acquire the land from KCAL, and they'll be paying a cash payment to KCAL. So the city is out $0 for the property. And then again, we don't have to spend any money on infrastructure because the developer will be paying for the infrastructure for the cultivation site. Additionally, the developer, KCAL, because they want to build in Lemoore and they are interested in the 9 acres that's over on the corner of Cedar and 19th and a half. So as part of the agreement, they have the rights to that property for the next 5 years once we get it rezoned for a mixed use. The intent is to do some retail and some affordable housing over there, which is part of the state mandate we need as well. So we'll be bringing back to future council a rezoning on that 9 acres. But for tonight, what we're looking for is to allow me to sign this agreement on the project development agreement to allow Lemoore Farm LLC to cultivate on the 83.5 acres that we currently know in the South Industrial Park. Some of the requirements of the deal would be 8-foot chain link fence with privacy slats, razor wire, security cameras, lighting, and then they're also going to have like a 12-foot windscreen. So from the outside looking in, you won't see the operation. You'll see the tops of the houses. They will be required to have security on site 24/7 when they get into the final end. That's when if theft would occur, it would occur during that period of time. So they'll have people on site for that. And as part of the financial agreement, they will pay the city 2% gross receipts on the sale of the crop. The pro forma that was given to the city as part of this, they figured 2 crops per year out of that land, which would be May, June, July. So you'd harvest, the city would get a payment in August, and then they would replant right away. August, September, October, we'd get another payment in November. Based on 2%, the current market, we're anticipating that deal to bring about $2 to $2.2 million annually to the city. As you know, we passed the budget this year, which we were about 2.9 in the hole. This helps to get us back to black, but doesn't get us all the way there, but it's definitely helpful. So I'm here to take any questions you might have.
Can I also add that as part of this approval, I recommend that Nathan have authority to make non-substantive revisions to this document so that it doesn't have to keep coming back to council. Of course, any substantive changes would come back.
And just a question, what would be substantial or substantive?
Right, yeah. So a substantive change to this agreement would maybe be the length of the agreement, the amount of money that you're going to be collecting for those would be substantive changes. Non-substantive would be maybe they are asking for 30 days notice. Maybe they want 31 days notice, 32 days notice.
Okay.
For cancellation. So, but anything affecting the monetary provisions, the length of the contract, those would all come back to council.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The city council has to do everything it can to promote business in Lemoore, and this is a potential moneymaker to help the general fund. So my question would be, when would the anticipated first crop come in?
The developer, and let me back up too. So even though this is Farm Lemoore LLC, it is the same owner operators of the dispensary downtown, Natural Healing Center. As you can, if you've been into the old Bank of America, you can see that they definitely brought their A game and did a lot of good improvements. So we're dealing with a known entity, not a stranger. And, but their intent would be to get started as soon as they can and to have the first crops going in May of next year.
Okay. That's the only question I had. Is there any questions from the council? The staff recommends that we conduct the public hearing, accept public comment, and direct the city manager and designee to sign project development agreement and issue a cannabis regulatory permit proposed by and between the city of Lemoore and Farm Lemoore LLC. So is that still our recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, so
we
is there
need
any
to add this
questions
up?
before I open a public hearing?
And when they do the motion.
Okay.
You can,
Due to this, what they got going on, they had this in Paso Robles, right? Did we talk about this about they have another dispensary like this still land in Paso Robles?
Yes, NHC has another dispensary over in, not Arroyo Grande,
Paso.
Grover
it's in
Beach, Grover Beach.
But this is for
It's
cultivation.
right off the highway, right?
Are you talking a dispensary or cultivation?
Cultivation.
Yeah, they do have some cultivation sites in San Luis Obispo County and Santa Barbara County, and particularly right along Los Osos Road,
Los Osos Valley Road.
Los Osos Valley.
Only reason I'm asking, what did they do about, did anybody complain, like, public, like the community complain about the smell, anything like that? Are we gonna get backlash on any of that kind of stuff work? Did we do any of that research on how the community feels about that?
Yeah, well, we've been out there. So this site is on the very southern tip of town. Prevailing winds head south. So there's really no residents or nothing in the city limits that are downstream of this site. Odor mitigation is something that we can always look at, and we have the ability to look at that stuff if it becomes an issue. I went and toured, I went to Buellton last week and went to an 85-acre site, which is the largest single site in the state of California. And I was downwind of it. There was a little bit of an odor. It's not what people would expect, like if somebody's consuming in front of you or smoking, but more of a sweet kind of earthy odor. Wasn't real pungent, wasn't real offensive, but that was just one afternoon, but they are getting ready to harvest that crop any week. But there are some things you can do. We currently we're not requiring of this development to do any extra mitigation on odor at this point because they are in the southernmost border of town.
And they have lower fences.
And yeah, and at the coast, and Mayor Neal, at the coast, they don't have any kind of fencing around them. They're open. You can just walk into them. Here, there's going to be a 12-foot windscreen and an 8-foot privacy fence slat. So you'll have some border there. And then, but south of this, you have over 300 feet between the crossroads and everything else where it'll be. So you have a little buffer there as well.
Because it's right by the tomato. How far is that from Olam?
It would be right behind, it would be just west and just south of Olam. The property borders Olam's property.
Okay, and then you have the golf course across from there.
No, the golf course is, well, it's way over, yeah. The golf course is due
Okay.
east and northeast, yeah.
Probably a half.
Because the only reason I'm asking that question is because I know they was complaining about the odor of the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah.
So I don't want them to complain, just want to make sure we got it all, our ducks in a row.
Yeah, this is south and out of the wind path, or I guess
Okay.
it's not upwind of the residences over there.
Okay.
Any other comments before we go to public comment or public hearing? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Has anybody submitted a question or comment?
Good evening. So it reads, the contract has the developer as Farm Lemoore LLC, but there is no additional information. The attorney representing the developer is out of San Luis Obispo. In March of this year, FBI agents raided the San Luis Obispo County government offices regarding allegations of corruption surrounding a supervisor, several developers, and a group of marijuana businessmen. Could there be a connection? We don't know. Yes, it could be a stretch, but what if it isn't? Just Google FBI agents raid SLO County government offices for a variety of articles. There will be a new majority of council members after the election. Perhaps the consideration to table this item until the new council is seated would be appropriate. This is a significant item for the city, and the new council should be given the opportunity to approve or not this item, as it will come before them again. Perhaps providing them the opportunity to consider this item from the start instead of inheriting it as an option. Thank you. Janie Venegas, resident, District B. Thank you.
And any other?
No, that was the only one I
Okay, I
received.
will close the public hearing. Any discussion on the public hearing?
Well, be for cannabis, be against cannabis. The voters of California legalized it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Jack Daniels is still produced in a dry county in Tennessee. I think it's been that way since the Prohibition. So I think that we, as a city whose budget right now isn't hitting where it needs to be, needs to take advantage of situations that are there. And if it's not coming to Lemoore, it's going somewhere at the coast, it's going somewhere in the valley, wherever it might be. So like I said, it wasn't necessarily me that voted for recreational cannabis, but it's here, it's going to be here. And according to forecasts, depending on how you look at them, it's going to be federally legal here pretty quick. Why don't we jump on it and use it? I'm not going to say to our advantage, but utilize the monetary resources of it to better Lemoore, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with, there was a young lady who came in here, I think from the Bird Street, and she was very upset with our budget and everything. And I remember she saying something to the effect of, is this council doing absolutely every possible thing that it can to bring, revenue to our city? And at that point, like, how do you turn away possible revenue? I mean,
$2 million is
that seems pretty substantial.
significant.
I'm not the biggest fan of marijuana either, but at the same time, it's like you said, it's legal, and our chief of police doesn't seem to think it's anything horrible too either. So I think it's not just a decent idea. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, my comment on the public hearing comment was the current city council has to do everything it can to keep Lemoore businesses going. So any business that comes in, if it's a legal business, it should be allowed a permit. And there are philosophical differences between the way I may feel, but if it's legal, I have no problem with it. As far as passing this on to the next city council for their consideration, I think if we make decisions, we're going to be the ones that are going to be praised or blamed. So it's up to us to, bite the bullet, make the decision, good or bad. We're going to be responsible for the decision we make. And so I think passing it on to the next city council would be unfair to them. And so that would be like kicking a can down the road, and maybe it'll be fixed someday. So that's where I stand. Mr. Mayor, do you have any comment?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So is there any more discussion on this agenda item? Okay.
If I could add one thing, the applicants for the cultivation, I'll go through background. So they've been cleared via background. And we have followed the rules to get to this point.
And the additional comment I have is the the public hearing comment is exactly the kind of questions that I like to hear, because that gives us an opportunity to discuss those aspects of what people are thinking out there. And valid points were made, and I think I've tried to address those points. So
Well, and
Is
I also think that it takes us out of a whole nother situation that we don't want to be in.
yeah, and I don't want a future city council to blame us for kicking the can down the road. So is there a motion to approve 5-1? Can I put it that way?
It's not 5 dash, it's 4.
Yeah, the
Oh,
4-1.
4-1.
And if council is inclined to add that non-substantive revisions can be made, that's totally your discretion, but I just wanted to remind you.
Yeah, you say that word.
Non-substantive changes.
Non-substantive. Okay, yeah, I motion to accept 4-1 with the non-substantive. Right?
City
Yeah,
manager
changes allowed by
The city manager, there you go. I made the motion.
and a second.
I'd like to make a second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Lyons, second by Councilmember Scaldi. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Councilmember Lyons.
Aye.
Councilmember Scaldi.
Aye.
Mayor Neal.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
4-2, public hearing, consideration and approval of abatement of public nuisances, property identified in Resolution 2020-28, located within the city.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. On August 18, 2020, the City Council adopted 2020-28, formally identifying locations within the city that were in violation of City Ordinance 4-2-2, nuisance declared by resolution. Per City Ordinance 4-2-8, a public hearing is required in order to hear all objections related to the identified locations being declared as a public nuisance prior to the city abatement of the properties. Staff requests council's consideration to continue the abatement process as approved in Resolution 20-28. At this time, I do have, you have the list in front of you. I do have Code Enforcement Officer Soledad Perez here, who has actually, has compiled the list of properties. If you have any questions for her, if not, staff recommends that council opens the discussion up to the public.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
for Soledad Perez.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The question is there any policy now on how we handle repeat offenders that are on the list every year?
As of right now, the city does not have a nuisance policy, but this is something that maybe the city can look into and make some changes
Okay,
for repeated offenders.
that's the only question I have.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Do we have many repeat offenders who are on here?
So far right now on this list, we have two that we will probably have to clean, that were on the list last year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Does that happen often, Ms. Perez?
Yes, we always have to remind these property owners by sending them a letter that they need to cut their weeds. Yes, and it's usually the same list. But there's a couple of properties that actually contacted me, and they now know the procedure that we will go forward. And so hopefully that'll change with some of the property owners that are on here, and we won't have to put them on the list again, but yes.
So one more question. This will go out to bid,
Yes,
and so we will see this again for bid approval?
it'll go out to bid. Fire department will get 3 different bids, and then we'll go with the lowest bidder. So,
So we'll see this item again then? Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the item? We go ahead and open the public hearing then. Has anybody submitted an item?
I do not have any comments for 4-2.
Okay, anybody in the room? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and continue. Any other discussion? If not, we'll have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to pass 4-2, the consideration approval of abatement of public nuisances.
And instruct staff to move forward with the abatement process?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Scaldi, or was it Lyons?
It was Scaldi.
All right, so second from?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Outstanding. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Councilmember Scaldi.
Aye.
Councilmember Lyons.
Aye.
Mayor Neal.
Aye.
And I vote aye. The 4-2 is passed.
Thank you.
New business, section 5-1, report and recommendation, appointment of voting delegate to League of California Cities Conference. City clerk.
Good evening. So the League of California Cities Annual Conference is being held the October 7th through the 9th. The business meeting is on Friday, October 9th from noon to 2 p.m. And this year it is being held virtually. So this item before you is for the council to vote on a voting delegate for the business meeting on Friday, and then an alternate if you choose. And then if the council does not want to attend the annual conference, they can decide to do that too.
Is there a fee associated with being a voting member on this, or no?
So there is a fee. It's $50. It's significantly lower than.
Than the standard
Mhm.
travel per diem and all
Yeah.
the hotels? Okay.
So last year, I believe we budgeted $1,500 per council member to attend. So this year, if 2 council members want to attend via WebEx, it'd be $100.
So the voting will be virtual also?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how 400 cities are going to vote virtually.
We haven't been in a Zoom meeting.
458 cities or so.
Just take a little while.
So any discussion on that?
Well, I was thinking prior to that, that if they were actually going to have a meeting or something, that we might decline based off of our deficit. But
I
I think-
think it's an opportunity to save $50 or $100 instead of sending 2. We don't send any, so that's
Okay.
$100 saved. But we have budgeted for what, $1,500 or $1,600 for the annual conference. So that would be $100 less than we'd have to spend. But so are you recommending that we don't send anybody?
Oh, I was definitely going to recommend that we don't send anybody if it was, 2 or 3 days down in Long Beach or wherever they decided to have a conference this year.
But now that it's virtual, you want to do it?
I'm not saying I want to do it or I don't want to do it. I'm saying that it's a completely different scenario that, that's a savings of, over $1,000 for the city. And like I said, operating in a deficit, I wouldn't think it makes sense. But we are a city that's part of this. And if we have the opportunity to vote, why not voice our opinion? I mean, I realize it's $50. But in my humble opinion, and I'm not here next year, but I think that we should do it just because we have the opportunity.
Right now, we don't know what we're going to be voting for. Last year,
We'll bring it back.
It was
prior
all
to
out.
the meeting, we had a long discussion about items that were going to be voted on. And one of the items that we took so long on happened to be about the Tijuana River,
Mhm.
helping San Diego County fight that. And that was pulled before they even had a vote on it. So we spent a lot of time discussing how the city felt about voting on issues that were
Don't pertain to
basically, our comments never were heard.
Certainly, but we don't know, in my humble opinion, what's coming up. So for $50 again, and I'm not saying that $50 is nothing because obviously it is, but what if it has something to do with something that's near and dear to our city's heart? If we don't know it, then then we can just decline to vote. But if it's something big, and if we don't know, like I said, we still have 2 more council meetings prior to the League of California.
So you're talking about bringing it back?
Well, I'm saying if it's virtual and it's $50,
We're
we don't need to
probably-
have 2 people,
We're
but
prob-
hopefully we as a council can come together and decide what we think is best for the city, just like we do, every other week, and vote accordingly. That I think for $50, I think that it's money well spent.
I
So,
think at a future council meeting, we may know what those items were. So, Mayor Neal.
Yeah, if it's going to benefit quite a while now, ever since 2013. So if it's going to benefit our city, if it's something that's going to impact our city, we need somebody to go. But if it's something that, I can understand where you guys are going, we're going to save a little money, $50 here, because I can pay for it myself if nobody's going to go. I'll pay out my own pocket if that's the case. But if nobody wants to go to it, I will go. But if somebody wants to go, I would like one of you guys to go.
It's virtual,
So, yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
so council, yeah, it is a virtual meeting, so it'll be done via online computer, but the resolution there's only one resolution to vote on this year, and I'll give it to you brief. We're going to bring this back for the discussion so you guys could
Yeah.
give the body, but
Okay.
it's a resolution of the General Assembly of the League of California Cities Calling Nations Decency Act of 1996 to require social media companies to remove materials which promote criminal activities. That's the vote this year.
Okay.
It'll be one vote on one item.
I think that as a community of Lemoore, we should vote on that. Like I
Okay,
said, 50
so-
bucks.
So what we're asking for tonight is just who will be the voting delegate and an alternate. And that way, if for some reason somebody isn't available for the vote that day, their alternate can be.
Can I ask again the date and time? If you don't mind, I'm sorry.
The business meeting on Friday. So we're having the whole conference virtually, the 7th through the 9th, but the business meeting where they take the votes is the 9th at 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. The voting will
12
take.
to 2?
Do it online.
Yeah, it's through probably a Zoom platform or something similar to it. Like I said, I'm all for, I'm not throwing my name out there, but I think that we need to be involved in something like that to protect the citizens of Lemoore. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I'll go ahead and recommend that the mayor, since he's done it before, that he be the primary and Councilmember Scaldi be the alternate. We can discuss something like that. Does anybody agree or disagree or want to bow out?
I agree.
I agree.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, so I basically shanghaied 2 people, which, in the spirit of good faith, I think we have 2 outstanding people that represent the city of Lemoore. So
I don't
the
know if I've been described as
recommendation
that.
is to, I'll go ahead and make the motion. The staff recommendation recommends the city appoint 2 council members for the voting delegates and another council member as an alternate for the League of California Cities Annual Conference, and I make that motion. Councilmember Scaldi will be the alternate, and Mayor Neal will be the primary. And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion?
I would like to discuss it. I'm all for it, but is having an alternate going to cost us another $50?
No.
Okay, then
This is
I'm
just for the
absolutely
vote.
for it.
Chris,
Okay,
you can carpool to this thing. Don't worry.
Wow.
Let's
I think
set
you
up a
need-
computer at the city office.
I think you need to pay for the alternate also. So it
That's
could-
fine. We have it in the. we're good.
So, if for some reason that one of the 2 primary or alternate can't make it, we can change it before the meeting or before the voting. So according to what I've read, so they just need to be notified who the voting delegate is. And we have to submit our resolution to them. Right. So any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I vote aye. Councilmember Lyons,
Aye.
Councilmember Scaldi,
Aye.
and Mayor Neal. Congratulations, you are delegates. Okay, the last item on our agenda, the motion is approved, and the last item on our agenda is brief city council reports and requests, section 6-1, city council reports and requests. We'll go ahead and start with Councilmember Lyons.
So my neighbor her name is Nancy Bear, and she gave me a flyer and asked me to let Lemoore know about Lieutenant Commander USN Tolbert Jr. Memorial ROTC Scholarship Golf Tournament. It'll be held Friday, September 11th, 2020. The tee time will be at 9 o'clock. And $75 a person, teams of 4 for a scramble format. I will give this to Miss Marissa, and hopefully she can put it on our city's Facebook or whatever. And aside from that, I have a meeting tomorrow morning with the old
Refuse.
the refuse, and
8 o'clock.
yeah, I think that's all I've got for right now.
First, I don't know if Chief Ken had anything to do with this, but I'm glad that the Operation Project Hope or Project Hope, whatever it was, is kind of going away from Lemoore. I know our police department's already got their hands full with everything else, and I think that's only beneficial for the citizens. So whoever ramrodded that to take that away, I think is a bonus. 10 days from now is 9. It's a big day in our history. Pray, if I'm allowed to say that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, in our country right now, and we need to come together and be one, and let's figure that stuff out.
Amen.
Okay,
That's all I
thank
got.
you very much. I'm going to let the mayor have the final word. My comment would be, I want to thank the police department for those 300 plus visits over there to the travel lodge and that extra work you didn't need. So thank you on behalf of the city. And so that's all I have. Mayor Neal, final comment.
Yes, let me piggyback off of you, Councilmember Scody. That was very, very touching what you said, because our country needs to come together as one in these times of needs. I'm going to get off that topic now and go on to the dispensaries. If you can, City Manager, how's that going? How's the revenue with the dispensaries coming around right now? Is it looking good for us, or can you give me a little input on that, the council?
It can be a brief comment.
Yeah, so one dispensary opened June 18th. So we received revenues from June 8th for half a month in June. And both dispensaries were operational in July. And the city's take on the gross receipts is about $85,000 for that month and a half period.
Good.
And what do we have?
Well, that's it.
And what do we have projected for the year?
We projected 200,000 because nobody was open yet. So after this month, we're going to be over 50% of our total. So we're expecting more than the 200,000. We're definitely tracking against it. So we just finished August. They get the numbers into the city within 10 days. So I'll have an update at the next council meeting.
Mayor Neal, any other comments?
That's it for me.
Okay, that concludes our city council reports and requests. We are adjourned until September 15th.
Yep.
At 7:30 city council meeting. It is now 8:15, adjourned.